Welcome to the next video in the series in our coding blog. In this video we'll be working on the search functionality of our blog. So here we can see we've made this /blog page and we now have some tags on our blog post that we can filter by. So I've added here next and react on this particular card here, and you can see if you type something into the search bar, let's say I type in NE, we get the articles with the substring NE in them, so we get next and next.js. But in addition to that, we can also filter on the particular categories that we select. So if I select next, it will select the next video article, and then if I click nest as well, we get next and nest, both those articles. If I click off both of those, we go back to all, but with the NE there. And if we take that off, we get back all our articles. So let's go ahead and build this out. Let's start off by opening up our project here. And let's just go to our articles that we've created before. So this Angular MDX file here, we can come here and we can have a tags, and we can set this to an array of strings. So we have Ionic and Angular for this particular article. And then I'm just going to go ahead and copy this and save that and open up the next.js article, and I'll just place that there. And then we've got nest and node, and the same thing for next.js. So I'll just put next here, and also React, because next is sort of built on top of React, so we'll just place those tags together like that. And then I'm just going to go ahead and close these MDX files up. And what we want to do is we want to have a route for /blog. So if we look at our pages, we know that Next.js, the pages sections, they relate to the blog, to the routing. And we also have this blog section here. And then inside the blog folder, we got /the dynamic slug, but we don't actually have the blog page itself. So we want to have that page so we're able to navigate to the further blog post and do the searching functionality as we did in the beginning of this video. So let's go ahead and just create a new file here in the pages, in the root of the pages. So this is going to be a TSX file, and I want to have a functional component, an arrow component. So I can use this snippet RAFCE so I can export it. But before I even work on this part here, I think this needs to be uppercase B. I just want to change the card a little bit. So I'm just going to do the npm run dev so we can get the current state of our application. So we'll just let that compile. Okay, so now we're back to our application here. And we can see that the cards, they look like this and they're on the home page. We want to present that in the blog page, and we also want to add those tags in there as well. So let's just do that to start off with. So let's go to the card component, and let's just add in a few things. Of course, we're going to need to change the post object or the nested objects within there. So in metadata, for example, we want to have adding to our interface the tags, and that's going to be of the type tag, which we'll create. And let's just create this in here. So tag.ts here. So what a tag will be this is going to be a type of the type tag, and this is where I'm just going to outline all of the properties that we've had in the in our markdown files. So there's not, after the blog's built, there's only probably going to be like, you know, somewhere between 5 and 10 tags. So these are the key categories that I'll start off with. They may evolve over time, but just as a starting point. So we got Angular, Ionic, React, Next, Nest, Node. So I'll add those in there like that. And then I also just want to export the a variable called tag filters, and that's just going to be of that type tag, an array of them, and we'll just set that equal to all of those values there, just so we have the type, but then we also have the variable representation of that. So I'm just going to select these and change them to a comma, and now we have our tag here. So now we can come back to our metadata file and we can import tag from the path, and then we can go ahead and we can just close these up, and now we can come back to our card component. So recall our card component, it's taking a post as a prop, and now we have access to the thing we just created, which is the tags. Okay, so now we have the tags. We just want to display the tags. So what we'll need to do is we'll need to have just below, so we got this card, so let's just have a look visually, and then we got this image here, and then we got this text here. So just below this bit of typography here, we want to have our tags dynamically rendered, or that's technically statically rendered, but we want to do this programmatically. So let's just go ahead and do that, and we'll just do that below the typography section here. So what we'll do is we'll just have a stack, which is it's going to come from MUI material, and I can just copy one of these down and just put a stack here, and that should do that. And then we're also going to display the chip component, so I'll do the same thing for that. Get the chip component, and we'll go ahead and we'll just use those. So just in this stack section here, you can just go ahead and open this up. And okay, firstly I'll just give it a style, give it an inline style. So we can just give it a margin top of 24, just so you know there's some spacing between the cards, and between the badges or the chips that we'll have in here and our content. And then what we will do here is we'll also give this stack a direction, and this is just going to be a row because we want our chips to be in a row. They're not necessarily going to be all of the same length. Like some articles might only have one chip and others might have 3 or 4. So we want to be able to handle that nicely. And then we'll just give it a little bit of spacing here. Give it spacing of 1. And then what we can do here is inside our stack, we need to loop through all of our tags. So right now we got one post, but one post can have multiple tags. So we can just sort of get the tags and then we can map through them. And then for each tag, which is going to be of the type tag, and we'll need to import that. And then each tag will refer to an index in the tags array. So let's just give it index of the type number. And then for this, what we want to return here is we actually need the link. I don't know if we've imported that from before, so we have that here. So let's just copy this sort of syntax here and save that. And then we can just go ahead and we can say each link will have the key of the index, so we can uniquely identify the key. And then let's just put it to /blog for now, and we'll come back to how we go about doing the routing in another video. But right now I want to focus on the search functionality. So rather than having this button here, I want to have a chip component. And a chip component, it's going to have some properties on it. So we can give it a label, and we'll need to dynamically set this to the tag. So we'll just pass in the tag that we got, that we're mapping through. And then we also want to have the particular type of chip. So we want the variant where we have it outlined. And then we're going to have a method where if the user clicks on the chip, we'll be able to route, we'll be able to do something perhaps. So we could have something like this. This is just going to be a placeholder though at the moment. What's going on? Oh, this needs to be a curly bracket. Does it? One click. Let's see. Oh, I just need the equal sign in here. So I'll just go ahead and save that, and that should get rid of the error. Now, again, we're going to handle the routing in a separate video. I just sort of wanted a placeholder for that. So now you can see if I come to the home page and we come to our cards here, we have these nice icons here. These particular chips that represent the topic of the blog, and we'll be able to use those to filter them. And of course you can see that it's routing us to the blog page. There's nothing on the blog page, so let's go ahead and navigate to the blog page and start working on that. So we've got this blog page here. It's a React functional component, and I think the first thing we want to do is we want to just copy the index.tsx file, because it's going to have all of our blog posts rendered there. So let's just go ahead and copy this part of it just to get started. Actually, we're going to need the static props as well. So let's go ahead and just copy that in. And then we'll just see if we need to make any changes to that. So, okay, we need to import get static props from Next. It's going to be asynchronous function. We're going to get the articles directory. So we're going to need the path, the file system, and the matter package. So let's just go ahead and copy those imports from the index.tsx file. And that should get rid of those errors. Now let's just check that everything is working okay. So we're going into the articles directory. We're reading the files of the directory. Each blog post, we're taking the particular file name, replacing the .mdx extension. We're reading the file in, and then we're converting it, the type from MDX using, again, the front matter or the metadata from there, and then also the contents of all the slug and the metadata. And then we're going to go ahead and we're just going to return the props of the posts, which is the blog posts. Now, in addition to that, I also want to sort the posts, because right now we've got our articles in here, and you can see that we've got this date string here, and at the moment it doesn't know how to sort by the date. So when you go to a blog site, you really want to see the latest post first for whatever particular category you're looking at or anything like that. So we're going to need to implement some of that functionality. So namely, when we're returning the post here, what we want to do is we just want to sort. We can use the sort method. It's built into TypeScript or JavaScript. And the way this works is it takes 2 arguments. So we'll just call it A and B, and it's going to refer to the post. And we might need to import that as well. Let's see here. Yep. So yeah, we're comparing. We're going to go through the posts, and we're going to compare, you know, the first element with the second with the third, and so on. The algorithm's sort of being created for us, but we can just make use of it by to have descending. We need to take the second date and minus the first date, and that it works out that, you know, that would be in descending order. And if you wanted it in ascending order, you'd have to do it the other way on. So basically, we have a date string, so we need to convert it to a date type. So we can actually do that by saying new date, and then we can go ahead and we can take the second date. We can get the metadata, and then we can get the date string, and then now we converted our date string into a date. But then we actually just need to take the value of that, just to avoid any type issues or anything like that. And then we can just go ahead and we can subtract off the same thing, but for A. And then we get the value of here. So I think we're just getting a type issue. Let's just go ahead and say that these blog posts are of the type post here. And then we're getting an error here. And the reason is because when it's returning slug and metadata here, it doesn't actually recognize that it's a post. So we can just typecast that and say that that's as a post. And now, you know, if we return to our home page, oh sorry, we're on the blog page, so we're going to need to do that. But we see all that on the home page, it starts at 11, 12, 13. So we want it to be in the reverse order when we display that on the page in our blog TSX file. So let's go ahead and get that going. So we have this variable here. Now this is a page. So when you're making a page in Next, you can just, and using TypeScript, you can just use the next page. That's just coming from Next. Whereas if you've got a component, you know, you probably likely be using a React functional component. So we can just go ahead and get those props. So we can just go ahead and get those posts. So we're returning the posts and we're sorting them. So what we can do here is we can just go ahead and just like in our index file here, after the here, we can go ahead and we can just infer the get static prop type. So we're going to need to import that. I might just copy this whole section here because I've had problems getting in the right position before. So I copied it up until the arrow. And then I'll just change this to blog. This is coming from Next as well. So now we got the right types there. So we've got our posts. So I guess we'll just need to display them. So I guess how we'll display them initially is we'll just do it in the same way as it is here, and then we'll just, you know, fix that up. So we're going to need our card component. So let's get that. And let's just see where we're at. Alright, cool. Now we can see that we've got our 3 blog posts. We've got these ones here, and it's in reverse order. So I'm just going to go ahead and open up the console tools here, just in case we need any logging or anything like that, or any errors occur. Another thing I want to do before we work on the real logic is just sort of center things and display it on a row. So I can position it as a row by displaying it as flex, and then that should do it. Alright, cool. So obviously we're going to come back to styling later on, but right now I really want to work on the functionality. So let's start off by just creating the UI for the search bar and the tags. So what we'll do is we'll just come here, and then we'll just have another, you know, we'll probably just have a fragment here just to wrap everything up. And let's just go ahead and get some of this stuff in from rack material. So I don't know if I'll need all of this stuff. In fact, I probably won't need most of this stuff, but I'll just get the typography component. And then here, I'm going to make use of the typography. So have something like this. And as the contents, I'm going to call it blog. I'm just going to align it so it's centered. And then I'm going to give it a color of primary. And this is going to be the particular variant. It's going to be the main heading, so we'll give it a H1. So let's just see if that works. Alright, cool. Another thing I might do is I sort of had a change of mind on the color scheming. I sort of want the teal green to be the primary color and this to be the secondary color. So I'm just going to come into the let's see here. In utils we have the theme. Now I'm just going to switch the order of the primary palette and the secondary palette. So I'm just going to get that name there and cut that there. Oops. Yeah. And then I'm just going to shift it down. Oh, actually, sorry, wrong command. Alt down. And then just change that up. And now I want to just come to this heading and just make that the primary color now rather than the secondary color. So I'll just open up the header component. And where I have the switch, I'm going to change this to primary. So now we see we've got this primary color here and dark mode still working okay. And we'll just check out the home page, make sure it's looking decent. And yeah, it looks pretty decent. So let's return to the blog page. So what we'll do here is we'll close up our card component and also our header component. We can close our theme. I'll temporarily leave index open just in case we need to copy some more stuff over from there. So I'm actually just going to go ahead and import a bunch of the things that we'll be using here. So we've got typography already, but I'm also getting text field, chip, stack, and paper. And I'm also getting a search icon to display as an icon in the search bar. So let's go to our UI. What we can see is we've just got the heading here and our cards here, but we want the search bar and the tags. So let's go ahead and build that out. And we can start off by having a paper, and that's just to have a, you know, a slight background color difference essentially. So we've got a paper here, paper component, and this is going to wrap our, you know, our text field. And these are all coming from Material UI. So I just read through the documentation and started using those. So we're going to have a text field here. And this is just one of those self-closing ones. And as the props, firstly, we'll give it a placeholder. Oh, we'll give it a style first. And we'll just give it a width. We'll give it a fixed width. We're going to come back and make everything responsive and clean up the UI and all that sort of stuff. But just for now, we just want something decent. So we'll just give it a width of 400. And then I'll give it a placeholder. And I'll give it a placeholder of search. I might make it search ... I'm going to give it a value of the particular search string. So we're going to need a set of property there. So what I'll do is I'm going to come up to the top of the component here, just before the return statement, and this is where we're going to have our hooks. So we can just say, use state. You can get the use state hook in. Now we're going to have a bunch of these, and I might as well just set these up now. But this one here I was going to have as the search string, and it's going to have an initial state of just an empty string. And of course we're going to need to import this from React, and we'll put the React import up the top because it's more important. So yeah, we're just setting up sort of the properties that we'll be using. So all the different bits of state that we're using. So obviously there's the search string, whatever we type into the search bar, we want to be able to update that and display that in the component. And with TypeScript, it has type inference on here, so you don't need to specify that it's a string because it implies it from the type. So what else will we need in terms of state? We're going to need our tags. So we'll have another use state for our tags. So use state. Now by default we'll have this as an empty tag array, so we'll just need to import tag, and this will be initially set to none. The way I want to do it is I also have an OR tag. So if you looked at the tag type, you know, you see the particular tags. So we've got Angular, Ionic, React, and so on. But when you're filtering through blog posts, you want to have the ability to see all of them. So I'm actually going to not include that in here because I think it would clutter the tag definition up a little bit. But rather, I'm going to have two different sets of state. So one for the particular tags that you've selected, but also one for all of the tags. So if I just, and that will just be more of a switch or a boolean. So let's see, use state, and this is going to be is or tag. So is the or tag set, and depending on if it's set or not, we'll have different functionality being implemented. So this is just going to be set to true by default. So when you first come to the page, it's just searching through all of the blog posts, and once again it's going to imply the state here. So two other things we'll need are the posts, or the filtered posts, and also the post titles. So the filtered posts we can use by, so we're going to render the post out onto the page, and we're only going to render a subset of them, or potentially all, but could be a subset as well. So we're going to have this bit of state here for the filtered post, and initially what it's going to be is it's just going to be the state of the post that we're getting in as a prop. So we can actually just go ahead and get the type of that, which is just going to be an array of posts here. And then when we make our changes to our search string or our tags, we're going to be able to update them. Actually, when we make changes to our search string, we're going to be able to filter it, and then for our tags we're going to, you know, toggle the ability to display those particular posts by the tag on the component level. So the last bit of state here that we'll need is the post titles, and we're going to need to compare the title of the post to the search string. So right now we've got this post object where we've got a slug, and then we've got the metadata, and then in the metadata we got the title. We need to pull the titles out, so all the articles that were created. So here we've got Ionic Angular title, here we've got next.js, and so on. And we need to pull those out, all of them, into an array, and if any of those array elements are included in the search string, then we can go ahead and return those and filter those values. So that's why we'll need the post titles. And this is actually just going to be, the post titles is just going to be set once essentially. but it's done so when we use the use effect hook that there's no you know, strange behavior that's trying to make you, you know, turn off ES linting or anything like that. Again, this is all going to be rendered ahead of time anyway, so these sorts of optimizations and whatnot are, you know, potentially overkill. But it's good to have some general coding guidelines and stuff when you're doing your project. So even if it's a smaller project like a blog project or anything, eventually if it scales up a little bit, it gets a little bigger. So, you know, it's worth spending 10 seconds to make it, you know, legit. So we can come here, and this is just going to be a string array, and it's just going to take the post, mapping through the post, and then for each post what we'll do here is we'll just say for the post, for the metadata, take the title, and now I'm just going to go ahead and use 2 lowercase, and that's because the user could type in lowercase or uppercase, and the titles of the articles, you know, there could be a different format. Like the first letter might be a uppercase, but the second word might not be, and stuff like that. So I'm just going to put them all to lowercase, so I'm easily able to compare the search string to the post title here. So that's the bits of state that would want. So now we've got the bits of state. What we'll do is we'll set up the use effects. So essentially there's going to be 2 use effects hooks that we'll use here, and let's go ahead and get these in. We're not going to need to do any cleanup because we're just dealing with state of properties. We're not doing any promises or timeouts or anything like that. So let's just go ahead and get this. Now what we said is when the search string changes, we want to set the filtered post. So based on the search string changing, we want to go ahead and do stuff, and we'll go ahead and import use effect in from React. So if I just create a variable here called filtered post titles, so filtered post titles, this is just going to be a string array, and it's going to equal the post titles that we have. And if we wanted to, we could just go ahead and destructure those, just so we're going to need to put those in as another thing that could change, but it's not going to change, so it's not going to because you get all your article titles in when you read them in as a prop. So you only got, you know, let's say you got 10 blog posts, you got the 10 blog post titles. They aren't going to change, and if you do create another one, you're going to re-render or export your project again. But what we can do is we can just go ahead and for all those post titles, we can come here and we can just go ahead and we can filter them, and we can filter them by title, which is just going to be a string, and each title, essentially the way this will work is if the title, if it has an index of the particular search string, and we'll go ahead and we'll just trim that, because the search string, it could have spaces before or at the end of the search. Often people might type into Google search, you might accidentally have a space, or at the end of it you might have a few spaces, but you want to match it on the string that's cleaned up without that extra white space. So I'm just going to go ahead and trim that, and then I'm just going to put the whole thing to lowercase, because then we're able to compare it. And essentially, if that is not equal to -1, so if it's not equal to -1, it means that for the particular title that you're on, so you're looping through all of the titles that you got, and then if the search string matches that particular title, if it doesn't match, you get a -1 just by the index of function. So if it's not equal to -1, that means it's matched, which means we can get our filter post titles. So that's how we get the filter post titles. And just below here, we need to do something with the filter posts. So you type something in the search bar. If it matches one of the titles you got, you're going to get an array of the filtered post titles, and then you want to display those. So I'm going to have something here. I'm going to have a constant variable. I'm going to call it refiltered posts, because when you type in the second time, you're refiltering things. So this is going to be a post array, and I'm just going to go ahead and take all of the posts. So I'll just go ahead and put that bit of state in there. Now again, post and post titles, they're not really changing at all. So this won't refire the use effect. It's just essentially holding it as a variable. But the search string, that's what will be changing. So it will only fire when it needs to. So once again, we'll just use the filter method. And then for each of the posts, we'll go ahead and we'll just say, what we'll return is the filtered post titles. If the filtered post titles, if any of those are in the particular post.metadata.title dot to lowercase, that means that our blog post, it has a title that matches the search string. So that means we want to include that. So, and actually you could probably get rid of this return and that, and just return it in one go perhaps. Yeah, just get rid of that semicolon there. So now that you got the refiltered post here, what we can do is we can just go ahead and we can set the filtered post equal to the filtered post here. So refiltered post, and now we have that. So I know I said I'd start on the UI first, but I think it's a little easier to work on the logic first and then to implement it in the UI sort of thing. So yeah, and then the second bit of state that we want to reset, we can have another use effect hook here. So this is going to change when the tags change. So one option is to type into the search bar and change it, but another option is to click on a tag. So if you click on a tag, basically you have two cases. Either you click on a tag that's predefined, or you click on the OR tag, and the OR tag isn't in this tags list. But what we can do is we can say if the tags has a length of greater than 0, we can go ahead and we can set the isOr tag to false. Otherwise, we'll just go ahead and set the is/or tag to true. So this can occur if you click on, say, Angular or React. You click on any one tag, but then you click on that tag again and you take off the link. So then the tags will go back to 0. So we want it to default back to is/or, so that will need to be true. Okay. So now we've got our logic set up. We just need to implement it with the UI. So we started working on this paper. Now let's go ahead and continue working on that. And I think the reason I started going from UI to logic and now back to UI is because we didn't have this value here. So just on this text field here, and I will make the paper have this prop here of component equals to form, and then we want to give it a little bit of styling. So there's this SX property on these material UI components in most of them. So this has a width of 400 pixels. It's going to have a margin. It's going to have a top and bottom margin of 20 pixels, but left and right we want to center it. So we'll just use the auto tag there for the second property of margin. And then by default, paper, it has this box shadow at the bottom of it, but I don't want to have that, so I'm just going to take that off, and I'm going to set that to 0. And then we could just come to value here, and we'll set the value equal to the particular search string. And then on change, we'll just say, we'll take the event, and the event type is it's a change event, and the particular implementation or interface of the change event is the HTML input element. And then based on that, we can just go ahead and we can set the search string to the e.target.value. And then let's just go ahead here and just output that just to make sure it's working. So we'll have our search string here. We'll just save that. Just see where we're at. So we see that we've got this search bar here, and if we type something in, we can see that that bit of state's being stored and used. So now we got that, we can go ahead and take some more properties here. So we've got the text field, we've got the value, we've got the onChange method. We just need to have some input props, which is another property on the text field component. And the reason we want this is we want to have an image or a icon at the start. So we have this thing called start adornment, and we can actually go ahead and render HTML here if we want. So I'm going to render the search or TSX or JSX, the template, and I'll just get the tag here first, and I'm just going to give it a little bit of styling just to adjust the font size. So I'll put the font size at 30 pixels and the margin right at 8, and then it can take this second argument here with the style, and I'll just make that the font size of 30, so the text, 20. So we got the icon that's a little bigger, and then the text is going to be bigger in this section. Again, we're going to come back to all the styling and media queries and responsive design and all that sort of stuff, but And if I just go ahead and refresh this, you can see that we've got this cool search bar thing here. So that seems to be working okay. So the next thing I want to do is I want to have another bit of paper for the search icons. So let's create that. Just below this bit of paper here, I have another bit of paper. And then this first bit of paper here, we'll just give it some styling here. So once again, we'll use the SX here. And we'll say, we'll give this a height of 50 pixels. Display flex to make it a row. Line items to align the items vertically and center them vertically. Justify content to center it horizontally. Give it a margin. We'll give it a top of 20 pixels to give it some space from the search bar with these tags. And once again, we'll just give it a box shadow of 0. And then in here, we can have a stack component. And we can say we want the direction to be of a row. And we'll just have a spacing here equal to 1. And then we'll go ahead and we'll have a chip component in here. Now each chip, well actually the first chip, we want it to be the OR component. So we're going to give it a label here of OR. We want it to be outlined. So we'll give it the variant of outlined. And then we'll change the color. So actually we'll come back to color. And we'll also come back to on click. And then after this chip here in the stack, we want to render our tags. So we can just say for the tag filters that we got, we can map through those. And then for each tag of the type tag and index of the type number, we can go ahead and we can just go and render some JSX here. So we're just going to have this chip again that we're going to render. And this is just going to have a key equal to the index and a label equal to the tag. And what's going on? Tag filters is not defined. I don't know if that's an old error or not. Tag filters. Actually, in our tag here, we need to import the tag type, I suppose. So let's just go ahead and import that tag filters here. So then we have access to it. Let's just see where we're at. Okay, so we can see now that we've got our search bar here. We're typing something out here. And then we also have our tags. So obviously we need to filter things based on the search and also display the corresponding things based on the particular chip that you select. So let's go ahead and start to work on that functionality. And essentially we just need to expand on this part here. So right now we are displaying our cards. We're mapping through our posts. So rather than mapping through our posts, I want to map through the filtered posts, and each filtered post has a post and an index, and this is where we would want to have some more logic here. So I'm just going to open up a code block here, and I'm just going to say firstly, if it's not the OR tag, if it's not the OR tag and the post dot metadata, if the tags, so the post has a bunch of tags on it, and if those tags, if some of those tags, so if any of those tags here is included by all of the tags, so all of the tags, if any of those are included by that particular tag, then we'll say that, okay, well, the tag that you've selected, from here matches the particular post or tag. So if node selected, that's in here, so this article will be displayed. That's the logic I want to have. Of course, you could change this to every as well if you wanted to display both, so you have like a more filtered approach. So let's say you click nest and node, they'll just display this here. But if I had another article that had nest and something else, like nest and angular, for example, that wouldn't select it with every. But because I'm starting off the blog, I'm not going to have so many blog posts. I want to display more to the user, so that's why I'm having this some approach rather than every approach. So basically what we can do in that case here, let's see here, we need a code block here, is we can just return that essentially. So we can return that card component. Let's see, I think I got some extra things here. Don't know if I need all these. Maybe that one there. Alright, that's looking better. So yeah, but else if, let's say, just to be more clear, if it is all the tag, if the is all tag is selected, we can just go ahead and we can return the same thing essentially. So the logic here is, I think it's easier if it's read the other way on actually. So if it is an OR tag, or it can be everything, you just go ahead and just display everything. Otherwise, if the article has a tag that's included in the tag that you've selected, display that particular post. And if that isn't true, then this won't render. So when I look at this code, I think it sort of screams out as refactoring, but we'll just keep going. We'll come back to all these things. We'll come back to the UI and all that sort of stuff. So now we just need the ability to select our tags. We have the ability to set the search string, and when we select the tags or the chips, we want to go ahead and set some properties, and we also want to change the color of things. So for this first chip, we just want to add the color here, because we need the color to be able to determine if the chip is selected or not. So essentially, if the is OR tag is selected, let's use the secondary color because we've got a lot of teal here. Yeah. So let's complement that with the secondary color. Otherwise, if it's not selected, we'll just go ahead and use the default color. And the particular method we'll have here is the onClick method. And that should add the cursor there. And onClick, we don't need any arguments, but what we can say is we can just go ahead and we can set the tags back to an empty array. And additionally, we can set the is/or tag to true. And just save that to use Prettier to reformat that. So the next little bit of code that we'd want is to copy this color to the next chip. So let's just copy that there. But rather than is/or tag, this is going to be if the tags, so this is all of the possible tags, if they include, or if the particular tag that we're filtering through is in that list, we can just go ahead and say, put the secondary color on that chip. And for our onClick here, so I might just copy this onClick here for us, get the shape. For the onClick, we want to have a little bit more logic here. So there's two real cases. If the tags is not included, what we'll do is we'll set the tags, and the tags are going to be set to all of the existing tags, plus the current tag. Now I think when I said, let's see here, onClick, where's color? Color is all tag. Let's see. Oh, here. When I said this was all of the possible tags, I actually meant it's all of the selected tags. So you get all of the selected tags, and if that tag isn't in all of the selected tags, it means you need to take all of the selected tags and then add the new tag there. So we just use some array destructuring for that. So we can set the tags, but maybe the tag is already selected, then we need to go ahead and remove that tag. So we can just have a variable here, selected tags, and we can just use destructuring here to get all of the existing tags, and then we can just filter out the tag that we've selected. So the selected tag of the type tag is going to go to the selected tag not equaling the tag. So we'll just go ahead and save that. And then we can go ahead and, after this little bit of logic here, we can just go ahead and set the tags to the selected tags. Okay, so let's see where we're at with things. So we refresh the page. Let's see, let's type something in here. We type in NE, and okay, we need to get rid of the search below the search bar, wherever that is. Where is it? Yeah. Let's get rid of that, and let's just see where we're at. It should be pretty close by now. Refresh. So we've seen that functionality work. And we also want to see if we can filter by the tag. So right now I've selected the OR tag. Let's click next, and we get the next here. let's click next and nest. We get these two articles come up. Let's go ahead and click all. So that takes off the tags, it goes back to the all tag. And we can type in NE and then also filter it on the search, but also the next or the particular tag that you've searched. So that's all of the functionality that I wanted to build out in this video. Just to recap real quick, just to clarify the logic on everything we've done. So the first thing we did is, well, we changed all of our MDX files to include tags and changed the card component. But in terms of the logic in the blog post, we've added this filter here, or this sorting algorithm, to return our blog post in descending order, or the latest article first, and then we're able to receive that in as a prop into our function here. So we got the blog post. Then what we did is we just set some arguments, or we set the state of things. So we got the search string here, that's the state of that. We got the tags, that's the tags here. And then we broke the tags up into two sections. So everything to the right of this all, these are all the tags, and then this is the is or tag because it's different in nature to the rest of the tags. And then what we did is we got all of our filtered posts. Initially it was just the original post that we had, which just comes from our MDX file through the get static props. And then we're able to use ES6 notation to go from this post object into an array of all of the titles just by mapping through it. And everything we did with the lowercase function, just to you know, distinguish or not allow the user to, or it allows the user to type in both capital letters and non-capital letters, and also spaces and stuff like that with the trim function. So the actual logic after all those variables are set essentially happens in these two use effects hook. If they select any of the tags, basically what happens is if the tag's length is greater than 0, the OR tag is no longer selected. But you can see here in a case like you select Ionic, but then you take off Ionic, it goes back to the OR because nothing's selected. So we set it back to true OR by default. Otherwise you just have nothing displayed, sort of thing, and that's not really the behavior I was going for. So that's that code block there. Then this bit of code block here, this essentially just checks whether or not the search bar, the search string that the user's typed into the search bar is in the titles, in the post titles. And if it is, then we'll go ahead and filter those out, or filter, just return those ones. So that's the main logic there. And then of course, you know, we created our text field and our search bar and our chips that we're displaying, or our tags. And this sort of takes care of the searching functionality, and this takes care of determining if it's or if it's one of the tags. Then the next and final bit we need to filter our blog post is based on the tags itself. So, you know, we have this OR tag, of course, where we can set the tags back to an empty array because they're all selected, and then set the OR tag to true. And then, you know, based on whether it's the OR tag or not, or if the tag's selected or not, we display the color of it. But really, the real logic in this part here is just mapping through all of the tag filters, and then if any of the tags that we've selected is equal to that, we can go ahead and set that tag, and if it's already selected, we can take it off and remove that particular tag. And then we can just set the tags like that, and then we're just sort of conditionally rendering this based on this sort of logic here. So we have this sort of thing here where if it's all the tags, go ahead and display it. You're displaying the same component. It's just that you're restricting some of them based on whether or not it's an OR tag or not. So in the OR tag case, it's quite simple. You're just displaying each post. But this bit of logic here, which I hinted probably could be refactored, but the logic of it is that you're displaying the card component only if some of the tags included and it's not the OR tag. So it won't necessarily display all of them, and that's how it filters things out. So yeah, thanks so much for watching this video on the search functionality for the blog component. Yeah, I think in the next video we'll probably either work on some routing, because we need to navigate to this blog section. Let's say you're on the home page. You need to be able to click this link here. Let's say I click one of these tags like Angular. Like, how do you go about clicking on that from a component and, you know, pre-populating that with the particular tag that you've selected? So there's a little bit of work in the routing there. We also want to work on more things, like eventually we want to get a 404 page, but that'll probably come later on. We probably want to work, I think the next big section to work on is the code snippets section, so the learn page. We want to have like a side navigation bar and perhaps a table of contents and stuff like that for that section. So that'll probably be the big section that we'll work on. But there's lots of other things that will come: responsive design, deploying, and, you know, improving the UI and code quality and all of that sort of stuff. So yeah, if you're interested in that, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks so much for watching. Cheers.